Looking like there's no more trickling in at the moment, so it is 7 o'clock. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is our first Surplus Store and Recycling Center Town Hall. Today we're going to be focusing on the drop-off center and reopening on Monday, June 22nd. We're very excited that you've been able to join us here for this. Thank you for taking time out of your day to learn a little bit more about recycling and how to do it properly for us. My name is Katie Deska, and I'm the Education Coordinator here at Surplus Store and Recycling.
My name is Dave Smith. I'm the Recycling Coordinator. I oversee the collection of recyclable materials and the processing of those materials here on campus.
And I'm Chris Hewitt. I'm an Operations Coordinator for the Recycling Center and the Surplus Store.
All right. Before we get started, I just want to point out a few of the options that Zoom will give you. If you hover at the bottom of your screen, your toolbar should show up. And the function we will be using most will be the Q&A function. And that will come towards the end of the webinar when we have our question and answer session. If you look to the right of that, we also have a button that says chat. You don't have the ability to chat to us, but we can send chats to you so that when we refer to links, Chris will be able to pop those right in there. So keep your eye out for a bubble of chat. I just saw somebody was raising their hand. We are not going to be using that function today. But the other thing I wanted to point out is that you can adjust your screen. We'll be showing a PowerPoint presentation and Dave will be speaking at the same time. And so to have a larger screen show of the PowerPoint, you would just go to the middle line in your screen and drag that to the right or left to adjust. So we're going to just kick it off here with a quick overview video that we shot on site a couple weeks ago. So just give me a moment to pull up the shared screen here, please.
Hi, we're here at the MSU Recycling Drop-Off Center. As we return from our temporary closure, we'd like to point out a few changes that we are taking to promote safety among our patrons and staff. Most of the items you're used to recycling will continue to be accepted, including cardboard, newspaper, mixed paper, glass, metal, and books. None of these items require additional sorting, so staff will not have direct contact with the material. Under normal conditions, your plastics are hand-sorted by a dedicated team of student employees. In that circumstance, each student handles roughly 14,000 recyclables during a workday. That said, we are limiting the plastics we accept in order to prioritize the safety of our staff. We will not be accepting plastics number 3 through 7 or plastic bags of any kind. We will, though, continue to accept number 1 and number 2 plastic bottles and jugs. On a positive note, we are excited to announce that we are accepting a new material, cartons. Shelf-stable and refrigerated cartons will now be accepted. Examples include garbage cartons, broth boxes, goldfish cracker cartons, ice cream cartons, and paper coffee cups. We're also taking steps to keep you, our drop-off center patrons, safe. To allow for proper social distancing, the bins will be spread out and parking will be limited. We will have limited hours to begin with, so please check online for the most up-to-date information. Thanks for all your support, and go green.
As Katie transitions to our PowerPoint presentation, I did want to just give you a quick fun fact. Our recycling center, we process around 7.5 million pounds of recyclables annually. About 40% of those, or about 2.9 million pounds, come from our drop-off center. And in just a minute, when Katie gets up the presentation here, I'll be talking about, again, those changes that are going to be made to our drop-off center. So thank you, Katie. As we talked about earlier, our drop-off center will be reopening this upcoming Monday on June 22nd. We do have some limitations, however, as we open the drop-off center. First, we'll be limiting the days of the week that we'll be accepting materials. That'll be Monday through Friday. We will not be open on the weekends. And our hours will be 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. each day. So please, again, do not bring materials on the weekends or after hours for drop-off, as we will be closed. Most of the materials that we've accepted in the past, we will continue. We will accept items like corrugated cardboard, boxboard, glass bottles and jars, mixed paper, newspaper, books, and metal. The changes that we'll be making primarily come from our plastics. Next slide, please. We will only be accepting number 1 and number 2 plastic bottles and jugs. The picture in the upper right-hand corner is typical of a number 1 PET container. For example, there's the water bottle and the soda bottle. And then the picture in the bottom right is typical of your number 2 high-density polyethylene, or HDPE, that is common for a detergent bottle or a milk jug. Again, we will not be accepting plastics 3 through 7, plastic bags, or what we call film, and then non-bottle number 1 and number 2 plastics. Some good examples of non-bottle number 1 and 2 would be a container that you would get your plants in the springtime as you're planting, and also those containers that you get a lot of this time of year with strawberries and blueberries, what we call a clamshell container. So you might ask, how do I know if my bottle is accepted in number 1 or 2 plastic bottle? And there's 2 criteria it has to meet. First, it has to have the number 1 or number 2 plastic resin code stamped on the bottom of the bottle, which pretty much all of them do. It's typically found at the base or on the bottom of the container. And the second thing is it has to have a base that is wider than the neck or the opening. If you look at the diagram below, you can see the bottle on the right-hand side is typical of like what you would see for a water bottle. Pretty easy to tell that the neck is small as in comparison to the base. The container on the left is actually a wipe jug, and that has a neck that's much wider, but still smaller than the base, so that is something that we can accept as well. How will we collect these materials once you get to the drop-off center? We will have 2 containers for these types of plastics. The first will be for our milk jugs, which is similar to what you've had in the past. These are for what's called HDPE natural. HDPE in its natural form is a kind of semi-transparent, something that you can sort of see through. You can see the milk into it, but it's not completely clear. And that's the kind of bottle that we want placed in the milk jug container, as opposed to the jug that's in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That is a bottle that we're seeing more and more of these days. Those are milk jug containers that oftentimes contain like silk and soy milks, but they actually have a colorant in the plastic to color them white. So we would prefer that you put that in our second of our 2 plastic containers, the one that combines the number 1 and number 2 bottles. A quick little sketch of our drop-off center as it will be laid out when you see it come Monday. As you can see, the containers are going to be more widespread out. We will be placing them every other space. That will allow us to maintain at least 6 feet of social distancing. We'll also be coning off the parking spaces. Every other parking space will be coned off again. That is for the protection of our customers that come and allows us to help with maintain that social distancing. We also strongly encourage you to wear a facial covering if possible when you're at the site. In general, the containers will be laid out much the same as they have been in the past, with the corrugated cardboard on the west end of the site or on the left side of your screen, going across over to the milk jug container at the far right or the east side. We'll also have the glass and metal. We'll have smaller containers for that as opposed to the larger containers you've had to put material in the past. The metal container will be on the left side along with books, and the glass container will be on the right side or the east side as well. And then one other note is that currently Service Road is closed off due to construction. So you want to enter the site off of Farm Lane and then exit back off on the Farm Lane as well. We are very excited to have a new material to introduce to you, and those are carton containers. Those are the type of containers that hold packaging commonly used for beverage and food products. There are generally 2 types of cartons. There's the shelf-stable cartons, or what's called aseptic, and then there's the refrigerated cartons, also called gable top. The shelf stable commonly hold perishable items, but are shelf stable. Things like juice, soup, broth, wine, and milk that can be stored at room temperature. And then the refrigerated cartons commonly hold milk, juice, cream, and egg substitutions. There are a few other kind of containers that we'll accept as well, including ice cream, goldfish, and then paper cups as well. We ask that you not deposit styrofoam or cups coated with styrofoam in this container. We're really excited to be able to offer carton containers to our drop-off site customers, in part because it's a new material, but also because it's a material that we'll be sending to right here in the state of Michigan, to Sheboygan, Mission, to a company called Great Lakes Tissue. They make 100% tissue and towel products, in particular toilet paper and paper towel, which is obviously a product that's very needed these days. So we're very excited about that. Some tips for you as you plan your recycling trip. Please pre-sort your materials as best you can before arriving. It certainly makes it easier if you have everything separated. It makes it quicker and easier to deposit them in the containers that we have on site. We ask again that you respect your fellow recyclers and maintain at least 6 feet of social distance and wear a face mask if appropriate and possible. Bring your recyclables in a reusable or recyclable container if you can. Things like totes, paper bags, or cardboard boxes are all things that can be either reused or recycled on site. Oftentimes people like to bring their recyclables in plastic bags, but we are not able to recycle those at this time. And then finally, please only recycle what we accept. Oftentimes we get things in our recycling containers that we cannot accept. Those are called contaminants, and they require us to physically hand sort and remove those from our recycling stream. We do have some common common contaminants that we see at our drop-off center that I wanted to make you aware of. Things like packaging peanuts, which are oftentimes in shipping boxes. We get those in with our shipping boxes, and it's a real difficult material to remove from the stream. Plastic pots and trays, again, are another thing that we can no longer accept. Plastic bags, we cannot accept. Kids' toys are ones that we often find in our plastic stream. And then finally, ceramic or Pyrex are oftentimes deposited in our glass container, and those cannot be recycled with our glass. So in conclusion, we just really want to thank you for your patience while our drop-off center was closed. We really look forward to restoring those services to the community and offering another outlet for recyclable materials. We're really excited to offer cartons. It's something that we've been wanting to do for the last couple of years, and we're excited to be able to have a Michigan company that will help us recycle that material and get those end products back into the store shelves here in the area. And we want to thank you for your support for our mission, which is to turn waste into a resource, and your patience while our center has been closed. We will be having a question and answer period coming up here right now. And so please feel free to start submitting your questions and answers. We look forward to answering them for you.
Thank you very much, Dave. Just to review on how to submit a question, it's simple. You would just click on the question feature at the bottom of your toolbar and then type it in and click that send box for us. So we will step out of this PowerPoint and see what we've got coming in here. Mr. Hewitt, Chris, how is it looking? We got anything coming in yet?
Nope, we got a couple questions in. We've got one here asking, where can I recycle my plastics 3 through 7 now that you no longer take them?
That's a great question. Thank you, Chris. Plastics 3 through 7, there are some local drop-off centers that are listed as accepting those. My recommendation is to go to a website called midmichiganrecycles.org. I think Chris will be posting that here in a minute on the screen. Midmichiganrecycles.org is a regional website that's hosted by the Regional Recycling Coordinating Committee. It lists information on recycling outlets in the Tri-County area, so Ingham, Eaton, and Clinton counties. And it has the list of drop-off centers, in particular for Ingham County, and it lists all the materials that they accept. I would ask that once you look at that list and you find a place where you might want to take some materials, it's always a good idea to call ahead, especially during this time, because they may not have been able to update some of their information as things have been changing rapidly for recyclers in the area.
Okay. And
Before we move on to the next question, I just want to interject, excuse me. This is our very first time doing this. Chris, just to note, can you please change your setting on the chat box to change it from messaging all panelists to messaging all panelists and attendees?
all right. Sorry about that. It's our first time. And
Yeah, and just while we're waiting for that, another website that might be helpful is recyclemichigan.org. Recycle Michigan is a education component of the Michigan Recycling Coalition. That also lists a lot of resources for recycling across the state. The Eagle, with the formerly Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, also has the Recycling Raccoons program that has information on recycling as well.
okay. Now we do have 4 more questions in right now. 2 of them are related to plastic films. I'm going to combine them. Do we have an idea when we will accept plastic bags? Will we do so, and do you have an idea when?
You know, we don't. That is one of the more difficult materials to recycle. And because we have to hand sort that, we are, err on the sides of caution right now, and trying to make that so as material that we're not accepting, so we do not have to hand sort that. I will tell you that there are a lot of local stores that accept plastic bags and some films. Places like Meijer and Kroger in the past have taken those. It's my understanding some of them still are, and kind of in a situation like us, they maybe have postponed those for a while, but it's my understanding that some of the Kroger stores have started that back up. Again, I would contact your local Kroger store and see if they're accepting those materials at this time.
Okay. Will you be updating the signs, especially for the new stuff?
Absolutely. All of our recycling containers that will be at the drop-off center will have signage on them for the appropriate materials that should be placed in them. We've also already updated information on our website, and we'll continue to do so as things change.
Okay. Do we leave the tops on cartons like plastic, or do you need to take them off?
Good question. The tops can remain on cartons. We ask that you simply rinse out a carton so that it is free of the milk residue and things like that. Rinse it out quick, get that out. You can put the lid back on, and you do not have to crush it if you do not want to either. It can remain in its original form.
Yeah. We've got one more question in the queue right now related to the other important part of our facility, the surplus store. When will the surplus store reopen?
As of right now, we are open for takeout orders, so you can shop online, and we have a pickup, so you can order a material and come to the store and pick it up, or it can be shipped to you. So at this time, we do not have plans to reopen, but we're constantly evaluating that and looking to hopefully reopen that maybe as soon as later this summer. Again, that's another one. Please check with our website as we continue to post that information on our website and our social media.
Got a really good question here about metal can recycling. Should the cans be rinsed or thoroughly washed, like through the dishwasher, or can they just be tossed in?
Great question, and I would say this in general for all recyclables, they all should be clean and dry. It's very important that we send clean, dry, good quality material to end users so that they can turn that into a valuable new product. In particular with cans, we ask that people rinse them out. They don't need to be spotless. They do not need to be put through the dishwasher. You do not need to remove the labels if you do not want to. So we can accept them in that form. They don't have to be thoroughly clean, but the vast majority of the food residue should be off them if you do a good rinse of them.
Okay. And one last question here for now. Will staff be monitoring the number of cars at the drop-off center, or will the public have to police themselves?
Great question. Yes, we will have 2 staff people at the drop-off center when we're open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Weekdays. And they will be assisting customers as they come in with questions that they may have, handing out some information on how we can recycle materials. We'll also be keeping an eye on parking. As I said earlier, we're going to be limiting parking to every other space so that we can maintain social distancing. If we do not have enough parking, we will hold a line of cars if we need to. And again, that's all the more reason that we ask people to try to separate the materials before they come as much as possible so they can quickly and efficiently work their way through the recycling center and open up a parking spot for someone else. We do have currently about 8 or so spots, so we should have the ability to get quite a few cars into the center and move them through at a fairly good pace.
Okay. That is all the questions we have for now. Does anyone else have another question?
While we wait for anyone else to submit a question, just would like to let everyone know that this week we are celebrating Waste and Recycling Workers Week. It's a good time to show appreciation for those who service you at your home and also at the drop-off center. So if you are stopping by this week, please, if you feel up to it, take a moment and just let our staff know, what it is that you appreciate about the work that we do. And same for the folks who collect maybe curbside at your house.
So I've got a question that comes into us on a fairly regular basis that I thought this would be a good time to talk about it. Oftentimes we get people that ask us, do you send material overseas, or where do your recyclables go? And that's always something that we're very cognizant of. And we're very proud that pretty much all of our recyclables stay here in the Midwest. I think the furthest we are currently sending materials to is Ladysmith, Wisconsin, where our sorted office paper goes to a company called Dunn Paper. That material is made into a high quality tissue product. Our mixed paper, our newspaper, our boxboard and cardboard go to Battle Creek. Our glass goes to Chicago, Illinois. This made into various different kinds of products, from road aggregate to landscape mulch to fiberglass, various things. Our number 1 and number 2 bottles and jugs go to Dundee, Michigan, to a bottle-to-bottle recycler. That company flakes it, turns it into pellets. They have a sister company in the area that then turns those pellets into new bottles, and those are used by companies like Procter & Gamble to make new laundry detergent bottles and such. Our metals go here in Lansing to one of our local scrap metal dealers. So all of our materials stay pretty darn close to the campus community here, which is great.
Got one more question that's come in. Are we accepting TVs or other materials at the surplus store right now, Dave?
We currently are not. So that's probably referring to our very popular community reuse program that we've had going for a number of years, where people can bring in some kind of common household items. And because the store is closed, that program is not functioning at the moment. We hope to, again, it's one of those that will, as we bring staff back onto campus and are able to handle materials, then we'll most likely bring that program back. Again, I would ask that people check our website, check social media accounts for when we may be able to do that. Again, that's probably not something that we will look at doing until later on in the summer, or even possibly into the fall.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your questions.
I saw someone had snuck in a question there asking about whether or not I was going to sort all of these bottles that have poured out behind me here in this bunker photo. Luckily, all of those happily we're just going to be pushed right onto that conveyor belt that to the left of that picture, on the left side of that near the Sparty head, and sent up to our baler. So the students had done the hard work for us already on this one.
So I've got a couple of questions I can think of that we've seen posted on our social media. One is when are you going to start taking Styrofoam again? And the answer to that is actually we have not really been taking Styrofoam at the drop. We have not been taking Styrofoam at the drop-off center. I would encourage you to take. Thankfully we have a local Styrofoam recycler in Dart Container and Mason. So if you have Styrofoam, you can take it to Dart Container. I think one of the other question is when do you think maybe you might be expanding your hours or the days of service? So this interim period, we're going to be staffing our drop-off center, trying to educate folks on the changes. We're going to be doing that for at least a month. As we go, we'll be evaluating. We're hopeful that maybe in a month or 2 months, we'll be able to start expanding those hours as our customers get used to the new rules and regulations of our drop-off center. As I said earlier in the PowerPoint presentation, it's really critical right now that people only recycle what we can accept, because we have very limited ability in our material recovery facility to sort out contamination safely. So it's really critical, and if people are doing a good job, then it makes it much more likely that we'll be able to expand the hours and days of operations of our drop-off center.
Definitely. Thank you for everyone who's joined us. Connie, thank you for just shouting out a thank you to us. We appreciate it. We've been happy to be able to host this webinar tonight. Is there any other questions before we close out for the evening? All right, seeing none, I think we can say that we have all gotten a little bit better understanding of what to expect when the drop-off center reopens on Monday. So we're all very excited to see you there, and you know, always, of course, 6 feet apart. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. This recording will be posted to our website under the drop-off center updates page, which Chris has passed along through the chat button, and we'll also put up any additional resources there as well. So feel free to reach out to us with any questions that you have as you think of anything later on.
Thanks so much for having us. I appreciate you listening to our presentation and becoming a little bit better informed of our new processes.
All right, thank you everyone. Have a great night.